Hello traders and welcome back to another market update. My name is Nick, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the currency market to look for potential setups as well as major zones, levels, and technical analysis points to consider in your trading going forward. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video. EURUSD is the first one we're going to be taking a look at. Let's jump to the daily chart and see what we've got going on. Now, if you quickly take a look at this trend line that we've been talking about on the market updates the last several days, you can see that we are looking like we might want to break out of this structure, right? We've had this sell zone resistance, and for the first time, EURUSD has been able to close outside of this trend line level of resistance, which may signal that bulls have taken some sort of control, at least temporarily, and that bulls might hold this zone for the time being. Something to look out for might be, if we get this pin up here and running, you can see something to consider might be that if price breaks further and we get a significant kind of close above, right? If we maybe make a move like this, we find resistance up in one of these areas, and we get a pullback to this trend line, there might be some opportunities to look for a rebound or a retest on this trend line structure that has recently been broken. Something to consider there going forward on EURUSD. The next one is GBPUSD, which is taking a tumble here after it recently had a major spike to the upside, right? We actually broke through our recent structural resistance right here. You can see if we look left, this area actually got broken through, and now price is coming back to test that zone. Now, there might be some short-term opportunities here to potentially capture a little bit more of a push off of a minor pullback after a major bullish push. Sometimes we see a really big spike, a minor pullback, right? And then a continuation up. That's something to potentially look out for on your GBPUSD going forward. Maybe look for some sort of candlestick pattern or confirmation to find yourself an entry if that is something that you agree with. So USDJPY is going to be our next one, which is actually respecting this recent top very, very nicely. In fact, you can see price faked out on the top side. You can see right here, there's a couple different wicks there. That's looking to me like buyers tried to push price higher, but they failed. And what that could signal is that USDJPY might be headed back to pull back a little bit further, maybe to find some sort of support in a recent area. Let's take a look at some potential ideas for that support. Of course, you have this bottom here, right? That is a little bit longer term of a zone of support. You also have some minor support in this area as well. You can see support here. You found resistance in that same area, right? So the market is respecting, it seems, this area as well. Something to maybe look out for on your trade. You can combine that with a Fibonacci retracement, maybe a candlestick pattern as well, and look for confirmation on your trade. So let's go ahead and go forward from that, and let's talk about Brent crude oil. Everybody wants to talk about oil these days, so let's get into it. So you can see this area down here is acting as a area of support, right? We actually had significant bounce off that level multiple times, and holding that level, especially off of that bullish pin bar that we saw print right here. So as price comes into that area, you can see we did get most recently a bearish engulfing bar, right? The bearish bar there engulfed the previous bar very nicely. And what that might mean is that we may be headed back down to test that area with the short-term bearish momentum that we are seeing on Brent crude oil. Something to consider there. And now WTI crude is going to likely look very similar. You can see that we did have also a nice little bottom area here, and price is selling off, but currently testing this supportive structure here. If we zoom in a little bit so we can see this, you can see that this previous level of resistance is now potentially going to hold as support. We're going to be watching this level to see, hey, can we get some sort of bounce off of this previous level of resistance, which now may act as potential support. You can see how that how this candlestick closes will be significant to see how price goes forward. So let's go ahead and move on from oil, and we'll talk about gold. So gold back and forth recently. We've actually seen a pretty choppy market on gold. Now, if we draw the lines that we've been drawing for the last couple weeks, you can see we talked about this zone, and now we're talking about this zone. And as we had talked about on the market update last week multiple times, we actually had a very nice hold of this structure level, and there was some significant sell-off, right? We had some lower highs, and that is often the signal of a start of a new trend, right? So we had our higher high, we put in a lower high, and on the retest, I said there was a pretty good chance that we'd get a sell-off here. Not patting my back on, not patting my own back or anything, but we did get a nice little sell-off at that trend line, and going forward, I expect to see some sort of bearishness at those zones continuing forward. So let's go ahead and move on from gold. We'll talk about USDCAD, which sold off heavily last Friday. You can see in recent days, right? We've seen some really big sell-offs on dollar CAD, pulling back to some interesting levels. Now, we did have this trend line being printed. If we can grab this and put that across. You can see that price was holding that zone and actually closed underneath it. So going forward, the question will be, will this become a resistance now that price is closed underneath? Something to consider going forward on dollar Canadian. Maybe playing this trend line might be to someone's advantage. EURUSD is next, which is in kind of a sideways market, but we have some recent structure resistance point. If you do like to trade sideways markets, these might be some opportunities for you to look for either sells or buys, depending on how your strategy goes, and looking for some sort of confirmation to give yourself a better trade. Aussie dollar is going to be our last one, which is selling off recently. If we draw a fib here, we might actually be coming into some levels pretty soon. I like that 61.8. If we combine this structural support here with that 61.8% level on the right, that may be a good opportunity in my mind to look for potential buys on this pair as price does sell off very, very nicely here. We are getting a pullback that we've been looking for. So going forward, we'll see what happens with that. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in to today's market update, and we'll catch you next time.